Hello, welcome to this video discussing the release of version 2023 for Blue Open Studio from Proface. Okay. Just one item on the agenda today with many subtopics, and that's to discuss the release of version 2023 of Blue Open Studio. Okay. So the main, points for this release is to provide more IoT edge box functionality in drivers. If you'll previously remember, if we go back to version 2020, specifically if my memory is okay, Service Pack 2, we started to support the HMI runtime EdgeBox ST6000M Linux runtime EdgeBox. So that's 2023 is somewhat focused on some new functionality in drivers, etc. for that platform. New drivers, high-speed sampling, which we'll talk about, bug fixes and improvements for cybersecurity. Another target is, say, lower-end IPC applications. So we're going to release a 500 tag runtime for the Windows platform. Previously, that was only available as the 500 tag runtime that's built in to the STM6000 EdgeBox, but now you'll be able to, with 2023, you can get a 500 tag runtime for Windows. Okay, then there's going to be some items related to depreciated versions of Windows 8 and Visual Studio, and some drivers depreciation that we'll discuss. Okay, a couple of items to note. If you are a user of the EdgeBox to fully support version 2023, you do need a new firmware, which will be posted. And then there's a procedure to download the firmware. It's fairly straightforward and easy. Okay. And then it will require version ups. If you're on 2020 now and you want to move to 2023, you can version upgrade your license. Okay, so here's all the main technical points. Okay, and we will basically go through these one by one. Okay. First thing is some Aviva alignment. Basically changing to 2 different themes is all. So basically just a light and a dark mode for the ribbons. Previously we had different styles, etc. Those have been removed. This is again, so more towards the Aviva alignment. Okay. Here's the 500 tag runtime for Windows, just putting the part number up there for you were able to get the 500 tag build time. So now the new part numbers are the 500 tag runtimes for Windows, and then the third-party runtime for Windows, and then there's the upgrade. So if you want to upgrade your 500 tag license to 1500 tags, then that part number did not exist before, so now it does. Okay. Okay, moving on. All right, so there are some new built-in functions in IoT Worksheet to log data to Azure IoT Hub. This is currently only available in Windows, so it's not working in HMI runtime. Okay, and then there's basically if you look, there's a new menu in the Project Explorer named Internet of Things, and you'll see the first thing that's added in there is this Azure IoT Hub connection. Okay, so it's actually still using the Studio Database Gateway, so you still need a PC you need a PC, whether that's the same one you're running the runtime on or a different unit, you do need the Studio Gateway. That's where that's what's actually making the connection to Azure, etc. And then you're going to put your connection data, etc., that you're going to get from your Azure account. And then, so this is to some extent, this is an extension of the MQTT driver for Azure, but this is a little bit more of a direct connection, and then you have different transport types that you can use. Okay. Okay, so here you can see these are the script commands. So it's using script commands to send messages to Azure, to connect, get status, etc. So you can see here's some Here's the here's a get status. That's pretty straightforward. Hub open and send messages seem uh, like fairly obvious functions. Okay. Okay. The next thing is the ability to rename classes. Um, Previous versions going all the way back, you basically had no way to rename classes. You could, of course, create new ones and then reassign everything, etc. But there was no renaming, so that's a new. This is a new item. So now we have the ability to just right-click on the class, rename it, and that actually gets propagated throughout the project wherever it's used. Okay, so that's quite nice. Okay. External scalable vector graphics support in industrial graphics, meaning being able to import external SVG files into industrial graphics. Okay, and this is the first step in this functionality. This is a step one. Basically, for now, it's just basic shapes are supported, and then more to come in future versions. Okay. All right, now we get into something that's a little bit more interesting. Okay, improved logging performance to proprietary format. This is specifically done for the HMI runtime Linux box, but perhaps this can carry over into the Windows runtime. Here's one benchmark that I have for now, and that's in the HMI runtime. It used to take 610 milliseconds to get 200 tags. Now we can get that in 100 milliseconds. Okay? And then basically what we're looking at is some improved performance of the scheduler. All right. Okay, but it's not that simple, right? So we know within the architecture of Blue Open Studio that the scheduler, the driver sheets, the polling, etc., are kind of all working in different ways, and there's different settings for each of those that are all going to affect how fast that we can actually collect up this data. Okay, so what we're looking at is, the main driver sheet basically pulls at a fixed rate, and it's greater than 100 milliseconds. Okay, we can change that, but that's the typical by default. That's what we're looking at. Okay, you can do additional driver sheets where we can control the read and the write specifically within the driver sheet. But that's actually in the HMI runtime, only main driver sheets are supported, so we don't have that ability to use the additional driver sheets. And then you can see in here, we do have in the HMI runtime, you can make basically change in the .app file. We can change this read period to 100, okay, to 100 milliseconds. Okay, all right. But a couple more points, not that simple. Part two, the scheduler in the HMI runtime minimum is 200 milliseconds. So that's what we're left with is at this point, looks like we can get at best 200 millisecond sample. So in my testing, I had counters that were running at 1 millisecond, and I could see that every 200 milliseconds I was getting a new value. So it does appear to work. Okay. So the other part of this is that when we talk about logging to the proprietary format, that is logged to the internal, basically the internal flash memory. Okay, so we risk burning out that memory if we cyclically write at a very high rate of speed to this memory. Okay, in Windows this is less risk because basically the drivers of the hard drive, solid state drives, M2s, etc., taking care of our flash so we don't burn it out. But there is still a risk depending on quality of the drive, etc. But there is less risk than just straight flash memory. Okay, so what can we actually do in the HMI runtime? Of course, we can make that change to the app file. We can also use USB storage, okay, by executing a command to basically you can set the historical path for the proprietary data to a different location, in this case to a USB stick plugged into the STM6000 box. Okay. But we also need to consider also the USB flash life and speed also, because you have the same problem. If you cyclically write to it to USB flash, depending on the quality, etc., you will burn out the memory. And you can see here, this is what I have in the math worksheet. That's how we can set the historical path. Okay, so that the proprietary logger will be to a USB stick. Okay. And then what we do from that point is, you end up with basically a binary file, which is with a .hst extension. Okay. There is a command called hist to text, hst to txt, okay, which is converting the binary to a text file. This command only works in the Windows runtime, but you can use it separately. So if you have a Windows computer, basically is all you need. You could take the stick off the STM6000 Edge box and plug it into a PC, and then use the exe, the hist2 text exe separately. It's not a separate install. You could basically just use the file as a standalone file. Okay, and you'll see down here, this is just a real simple command on my USB stick. It's the command, the file that I want to convert, and then the /m means show milliseconds. In here, there's a sample of what a text file looks like. Okay. Some additional commands in the hist to text. You can select specific times, etc. And then we know that based on HST files are changed at basically midnight every day. And then you can see here all the different arguments that you can pass to the command. Start date, start time, how long, which group, target file, separator, right, comma. The default separator is tab. Okay. The next one, moving on, and you can kind of see it in one of the examples, is in the HMI runtime now, you can have basically a dynamic station ID IP address for the drivers, and that's the famous where you can, within the brackets, you can put basically a string tag to dynamically change the IP address that you're reading from. This was always supported in Windows. I see I have a typo there. Apologize for that. This has always been supported in Windows, but now it's supported in the HMI runtime. And you can see an example of it here in the main driver sheet. Okay. Okay. The next thing is HMI runtime Linux remote agent improvements. Okay. So now HMI runtime, TLS, and authentication are mandatory. Okay. There is a default username and password, and then the speed of transfer is greatly improved. If you remember to previous versions, it took a good 20 minutes to transfer the system files into the Edge boxes, but now that's within, I think I can get the whole thing done within 5 to 6 minutes, something like that. So that's been greatly improved. Here I'm showing you the section of the manual that is talking about where the default passwords are, etc. So if we take a look at that, let's call that up. Let's show a quick demo of that. All right, so here's my Blue Open Studio version 2023. And when I do, I have a connection to a Edge box at this IP address. And you'll notice here you have this use TLS checkbox. This is mandatory now. If I uncheck the box and I try to connect, it should give me an error. And okay, you get a connection error. Now if I check the okay, all right, and you can see now I'm connected. Here's where you would install the runtime files, for example. Okay, that's where it really was greatly improved. And then same here in the project. This download was also improved. So the thing I wanted to point out here is now you'll see there's another tab in the remote management tool for remote management of users. So you'll see for now there's only one authentication mode, and now what you have is you have the ability to add and edit, basically add and remove users, and then within the users you have the ability to give them different authorizations for download, running the project, etc. Okay.
The next topic for version 2023 is the addition of some virtual keyboards for mobile access. Okay. So previously, the mobile access, the HTML5 access had no virtual on-screen keyboard. So let's take a look at what that looks like in practice. So here I'm going to bring over my Blue Open Studio environment. Okay, you can see I have a runtime running. So this is the native viewer. I have the virtual keyboard enabled in the native viewer, and of course I can come in here and use that native keyboard. But if we switch to, now if we go to mobile access, right, through the root, through the BOS 2023, what you'll see is that when I click on these numeric objects, I don't have a keyboard, or a virtual keyboard, touchscreen keyboard, etc. So I have to have a keyboard, like in this example, of course, I have it on my computer, and I can enter data without any problem. Okay, but for devices that don't have, for touchscreens or for other devices where a keyboard is not there, this could be an issue. Okay, so if we stay in the BOS environment here, I'm going to go ahead and stop the project. So what's been added for 2023 in the mobile access area is you'll see a new entry for virtual keyboard. We'll just check that. We'll leave everything else at default. I'll go ahead, save it. I will save all as HTML. Okay. And now I'll go ahead and run the project. Okay, you'll see it doesn't change the behavior of the native viewer. I go to my browser, log in. Okay. Now you can see I have an actual keypad. So if I actually had a touchscreen device, I could use that instead of having to physically hook up a keypad or a keyboard. Okay.
Okay. Now, drivers. Okay, because of the depreciation of those versions, as previously mentioned, basically all the communication drivers needed to be redone. So what happened is we basically took care of 33 of the drivers for Windows, and then 16 of those are supported on the Edgebox. And then if we go back to version 2022, Service Pack 3, there were 159 drivers for Windows and 13 for Edgebox. So you can see we've added drivers for the Edgebox, but obviously we're depreciating many Windows drivers. Okay. The remaining drivers will be rebuilt based on a future schedule that we're going to determine. Okay. And you still can use any of the legacy drivers. They can be installed, but you must accept the terms to install the drivers using the old frameworks, etc. Okay, and then this is what it looks like in the add remove programs. You're going to have another selection now for legacy drivers, and here it's pointing out they're using Visual C++ 2008, which is out of support. So it's basically saying you're basically ensuring that you know this and that it's okay. 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 Now, if we get into, like I said, all the different driver improvements, right? So the code assist driver, so now that code assist driver is supported in the HMI runtime, right? In the STM 6000 IoT box. Okay, we added support for some data types. Okay, and then just a note here about the case. So it is supported in the HMI runtime, but note that tag integration is not supported. So you're going to have to do direct entry of tags. Okay, some changes to the IE104 driver. Okay, keyints driver added support for the HMI runtime, so the Linux box. Okay, something to do with timers and counters. You could see support for reading memory areas. Okay, communication issues for CTC and CTH registers, and then obviously for the HMI runtime added support for the main driver sheet. Machine advisor driver. Okay. Support for Charlie protocol, store and forward, then revise tag syntax to use the standard format used by all drivers. Okay, then the Matsushita driver, Panasonic, again, added support for HMI runtime. MQTT added support for unique client ID and added support for simultaneous request. So machine driver added support again, very similar to the Codesys, but in the So machine version. TI 500 support for data formats. Okay, thank you. So that's all I have for version 2023. Thank you for watching.